Welcome to Ask AI, the podcast that brings you insightful interviews and news from the world of Canadian artificial intelligence. This episode is sponsored by Microsoft Canada. Microsoft is committed to building trusted and responsible AI systems. To learn more, go to microsoft.com/AI and check out their free AI business school to start building intelligence into your solutions today. We're also sponsored by Cinchi, the global leader in data fabric technology. Visit cinchi.com to learn how to eliminate integration and turbocharge your AI transformation.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the Ask AI podcast. Remember that if you have any news to share about your Canadian startup, project, or research, or if you have an opportunity to share with our community, please email us at news@askai.org. As always, if you have any questions about any aspect of artificial intelligence, maybe about something that you've heard on this podcast, please send your query to questions@askai.org, and we'll do our best to get a reply from a Canadian AI expert. We'll post all news items and replies to our website, chatbot, and other digital properties for the benefit of the wider Ask AI community. And don't forget as well, you can sign up to our newsletter at askai.org/newsletter and get all of our updates and special offers sent right to your inbox. By the way, last month we shared a great promo code to the Toronto Machine Learning Summit. If you didn't have a chance to catch it, definitely check out their website and see more about all the talks that happened, and you can learn more there. So let's get on with the podcast. Today, we are very happy to have Henry Shi with us. Henry Shi co-founded SnapTravel in 2016 to make booking the perfect hotel room as easy as chatting with a friend over Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, SMS, Slack, Amazon Alexa, or more. So far, it's working great. Over 8 million people have used SnapTravel, and over 95% of their bookings are completed without any human involvement. This is incredible. And SnapTravel has raised over $16 million from investors, leading investors around the world. And now the company is doing over a few hundred million in sales per year. And despite his young age, Henry is actually already starting to give back in incredible ways. He's created 2 fellowships for students of Georgia Tech's online Master of Science in Computer Science program, the first of its kind gift in the program's history. And in fact, Henry and I met over 10 years ago, back when we were both students and we worked together in the same junior achievement company. Henry, it's great to talk again. Welcome to the Ask AI podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, really happy to be here.
Awesome, man. So I thought we'd start with the basics. Do you want to give us a bit of background on the work you've been up to, in particular on SnapTravel and how it came to be?
Sure, I can give a quick background on myself. So I studied computer science at Waterloo, and I've always been doing sort of startups throughout undergrad and even before that, starting with junior achievement and then also Velocity and the Waterloo incubator ecosystem, as well as Next36. And then I worked at a startup in the Valley. I was doing machine learning for credit lending. And that's where I really saw what it was like building and scaling a startup. They just came out of YC at that time, and I was like the second machine learning engineer there. And there was like 10 people. And then sort of, within sort of a year, they raised a Series A, and now they probably raised over $300 million and probably over 500 people. So just really amazing to see that progress and growth, and really inspired me to, think big and sort of dream big and continue to do entrepreneurship. So after graduating, I worked at Google for a bit just to see what it's like on the other side. I was on the data team at YouTube, helping musicians get more fans and followers. But I realized a big company wasn't for me. It was a little bit hard to get things done. I just felt that I wasn't growing, learning, or challenging myself in the same way as it was when I was at a startup. I decided to go back to a startup. So I started a company about 5 years ago. Essentially, what we saw was, if you think about e-commerce, traditionally in the brick and mortar space, it was very relationship heavy, right? You could walk to a store, you could talk to somebody, they would know your name, kind of know what you wanted, and give you recommendations, offers. And then came online with Amazon and became very transactional. Like you go online, you book, and you buy something, and you're done. You don't talk to anybody, you don't engage with anybody. And we kind of saw a way to bridge the gap between the two over messaging. That was when Facebook just launched the Messenger SDK, and we saw there was a way to sort of bridge the gap between the old relationship-driven brick and mortar, as well as the efficiency of it online, using AI at scale, right? So this technology allowed us to offer a personalized experience, one-on-one experience to each customer over messaging at scale. So that's kind of how the company started. Our sort of first brand you may have heard of is SnapTravel, which takes this concept of relationship-driven commerce and applies it to travel, specifically hotels, right? Where we engage with customers over messaging, and we understand some of their preferences and give them personalized offers and recommendations. And that's been working very well. We have been going very quickly on that, over 100% year over year. Now, as we look broader, we're looking to apply our platform technology to other verticals within travel, but also outside of travel, like flights, transportation, events, tickets, activities, restaurants, etc. And we think about the relationship-driven commerce of it. It's no longer just a transaction. You don't come in just book. We engage with you throughout the life cycle of the journey, whether you're in the trip or at home. We can use that messaging relationship to offer you personalized recommendations and goods and services throughout the customer journey. So that's kind of the bigger vision of the company and sort of how we started and where we're looking to go. For me, my role is I started as a CTO of the company where I was building a lot of the technology platforms and stuff. And then since beginning of this year, end of last year, I transitioned to the COO role where I was taking on more of a internal operations of the company. So both product, technology, as well as some of the business and growth and the data side of things. So just really the internal engine of the company. Yeah, it's been a really fun journey and I've been learning a lot and worked with a lot of great people.
So exciting. I mean, it's been amazing to kind of see how you guys have grown from the very start. And one thing I was wondering about it as well is how you met your co-founder.
We met through mutual friends. So his name went to Waterloo, but before me, I was in SF and I was spending a lot of my time trying to meet co-founders, right? Because I was at Google, I wasn't very happy. So I was spending a lot of time after work just meeting investors, early stage teams, and just seeing if there's an early stage role for me, whether it's a founding engineer, co-founder, founding partner, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I was doing. And I met Hussein through mutual friends. So he was there for a conference and there was a small sort of mutual friend gathering from some Waterloo folks. We were there, got together, and we just got along really well in terms of common values, beliefs, ideas, goals. And we knew we wanted to work together. So we decided to just try a bunch of things in the background, like after work, and see if we could work well together. And eventually we're like, hey, you know what? This looks like it could work, but we got to do this full time to be serious. So I quit my job. He joined me in SF and we kind of hit the ground running. And that's how we got started.
That's so cool. And so when you guys were in SF, you ended up going through Y Combinator first, right?
No, we didn't actually. So yeah, it's one of those things where we actually didn't get in. So
oh, fair enough.
Yeah, it was, we just did our own thing. We were running around following the lean startup methodology, right? Like talking to customers, iterating, ideating, getting feedback, looking at, funnels, looking at where people dropped off and finding product market fit. So we were doing that for about half a year. We did, I think, 2 different ideas, ended up in the travel sort of messaging space. When we were first testing the idea, it was literally me as the bot, right? So I was on my message, people would message me and I would personally look up hotels for them and give them recommendations. But the crazy part was that people actually gave me their credit cards to book stuff. So we thought, okay, there's something here. We can kind of make this work and just scale it out. So that's how we got started.
That's so interesting. And why did you guys decide to start in SF at the time?
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where it was like, that's just where, at the time, it probably still is, to some degree, it's just where a lot of the people in the startup ecosystem were, right? Like if you wanted to talk to like this person who wrote this book about startups, they were probably there. If you want to talk about this VC who knows that other person who you want an intro to, you can get it through there. And you would see, all the different VCs and co-working spaces and other founders. And it was just such a vibrant community of people, especially in the early stages. It was just super helpful to be there. Like we were, prospecting our customers and they would just be down the street and we could go to the office and do a pitch or something. And everybody was super helpful because I guess a lot of people kind of are used to startups and founders and sort of early stage people figuring things out. So they were all supportive, really helpful. So yeah, overall, like it was just a really rich and vibrant community.
And then why did you guys decide to move back and actually start, really growing in Toronto?
Yeah, combination reasons. So one is my co-founder, his wife and family were here. So it's a little bit of that. But other reason was just there's a lot of distractions in SF as well and costs a lot higher. So it's one of those things where because there's so many startups, there's so many fads that come and go. It can really be distracting to always be in the buzz cycle. And for us, it was helpful to be heads down and build. And I think it's pros and cons, right? Like definitely there are pros here, but there are also cons too, because you look at valuations, probably get a lower valuation because of not being an SF and just not being part of that network. And I think it makes it harder to fundraise and whatnot. So we do split our time a little bit, but yeah, for the most part, we spend it here. Things might change going forward with everybody going remote and stuff, but that's how we used to operate.
Makes a lot of sense to me. Personally, I'm glad you guys started here in Toronto or really grew the company here. I think it's obviously one of our best and fastest growing companies. I'm wondering if you can kind of take us now a step out, like maybe to 1,000-foot overview of your product, the platform, the capabilities, the services you offer.
Sure. Yeah. So at a high level, the platform is we call it relationship-driven commerce through messaging, right? So if you think about, again, like I mentioned, the brick and mortar and online transactional sort of evolution of commerce, we believe the next phase is sort of this personalized at scale relationship-driven commerce where everybody gets a different sort of experience tailored to them. And so there's lots of things that go on there. And when we talk about AI company, we have AI throughout the product. There's the NLP piece, which is we understand what the customer wants, their intent, the preferences, entities, and all that stuff through chat. Right? Then there's the experimentation piece where we built our own experimentation engine that runs tons of experiments and decides which variants to show what kind of users. And that's the piece where we kind of target the experiences. And then there's also the supply and demand piece where how do we better match supply and demand, because we are also a marketplace, right? So how do we better target supply and demand? How do we know what people want? When do they want them? What's the right price for this type of user? And we do personalized pricing, and that differs across users based on the profile and information and their booking history and whatnot. So all these things create sort of if you think about relationship at scale, so the high level holy grail of e-commerce is no two users should get the same price or experience or product, because people have different willingness to pay, right? And the sort of idea of static pricing is not optimal, because if you ever study Econ 101, it's people have different willingness to pay, and the best way to maximize profit or minimize loss is to price it exactly at someone's willingness to pay. And that's kind of what we try to do for our suppliers and our merchants. So that's kind of a high level. There's many pieces of AI. And I would say chatbot stuff that you heard about is probably just a very small piece of that.
Can you go a little bit deeper into how the machine learning tech is actually working behind what you put together?
Yeah, so there's different pieces of it. So we ingest a couple of terabytes of data a day, and we look at external market signals. We look at internal commercial data, pricing data, and then we optimize that to target. We test it out, right? We try a different model for these type of users. We look at we measure their conversion rate, we measure their interaction rate, et cetera. And we can define specific target outcomes we want to achieve. And then our algorithms and our machine learning will automatically target and iterate towards that goal. And that can be applied to, pricing, that can be applied to a product feature, that can be applied to a conversion goal we have. So that's kind of on the product side. And then on the NLP side, it's very similar as well. We look at, tons of customer conversation data. We have a pipeline that trains our model. We have humans who label it. And part of that is because we have human agents. And as they service the customer, they also help label the data. So we use that to train our NLP model as well.
Gotcha. One thing I'm interested to hear is, I know you guys have been iterating on this for years, is what do you think the biggest changes are that you have made, like the ones that have actually had the biggest impact, and how you've refined your models over time?
Yeah, we use some pretty state-of-the-art models. Like when we moved to the BERT model, for example, for NLP, that made a pretty big impact. And as we can refine the features of that and tune the model, it became really, really effective. We also started using a lot of bigger data for our supply and demand piece. Instead of looking just our data, we looked at all the market data. And that's when it also became effective, because not only were we looking at our own internal ecosystem, we were looking at the entire market, right? Other competitors and other users who may or may not have used SnapTravel, but we kind of try to predict their intent. So that's also kind of interesting as we scale up the amount of data we process. Yeah, I think that those are some of the major improvements we made. There's other ones, but yeah.
Oh, for sure. That's awesome, Henry. I really appreciate you give us a bit of background and what's happened. I guess at the same time, one thing I'm wondering is, there is really so much hype about machine learning, about AI over the last few years. We're seeing billions of dollars being invested. Do you think there are areas, even in particular related to your business, where what's being hyped up has actually failed to meet that? Or are there any things that you found have kind of failed, or there's been a gap there?
Yeah, I think, like I briefly mentioned, is the chatbot's a very small piece of the engine that makes it work. And I think a lot of people are overhyped the chat assistant piece, right? Like trying to replace an entire human with NLP chat. And I just don't think that technology is there. It's like trying to take technology to forcing a technology to solve a problem. And I think that's one of the things we started early on. Like when we first started the company, it was very much a concierge-like service where we tried to build a human-like NLP to be a travel agent. But then we realized that's not actually what people wanted, because what happened was, you would ask something, and even if I had the best NLP and humans in the back, they give you that answer or recommendation or option, people wanted to see more, right? Like if you're browsing or shopping, you want to see some options, you want to browse around. And then so we give you some options that are algorithmically perfect match given the quality of the hotel, the budget, the location. And you say, maybe let's try something else, like a little bit closer to the beach instead. Well, like, wait a minute, like I thought you wanted something downtown, right? And instead people end up kind of saying, actually, I want something else, because a lot of times people don't know what they want as well, and they need to put it in the context of like the situation. It's very hard to say, like if you don't know anything about where you're going, you want to also do a bit of your own research. And what happens then ends up happening is it just becomes a back and forth, like chat ping pong, we call it. Just like customer says something, we give you something, it's what you wanted, but that's actually not actually truly what you wanted. So you ask again, and then it just becomes kind of frustrating to the customer, even though it's like the technology is there. So I think that's something that's been a little bit overhyped, and you'll see that's why the chatbot wave kind of came and gone, is because there wasn't the right user experience. And we kind of learned that, and we, now chat is a piece of technology, but it's not the core and not the main focus of the company, right? We still use it for where it is good, like re-engagement, like support, like if you exactly know what you want, like, hey, I need a hotel tonight in Toronto. Like, I don't care what it is, that's good use case. But if you're browsing, exploring, it's not necessarily the best use case, and that's okay. So I think that's one area where people overemphasize technology and the bot, and it underappreciated the user experience and the flow. And that's where we kind of saw a balance there.
Yeah, I think that's super, super interesting. And I guess now, where are you guys headed now? What's next?
So, we kind of proven this out. This works at scale with, travel and hotels, right? Like we have a world-class 70 NPS. Industry average is like 23. We have higher retention and repeat rates. We have higher conversion rates. So everything is going great. And now we're looking to apply this to more verticals, more industries. Like we know it works. And we have a playbook for applying this to other industries. And our customers are asking us for more. As we talk about the relationship-driven commerce, we engage with our customers throughout the journey. It's not like they book and they're gone, like say with Amazon or Expedia. We keep them posted on the products. We get them an upgrade. We send them timely reminders, notifications, like the weather and link to an Uber. We really kind of help take care of them throughout the journey. And as a result, they ask us for more things like, is there a restaurant thing here nearby? What's a good recommendation for an event? More activities. So as we look at throughout the customer journey, we want to expand our service to cover that whole life cycle, right? And it's kind of, it's looking at other things like flights, cars, transportation, events, restaurants, activity, et cetera, all these kind of things.
Super exciting to see how that expansion continues to go. What's the name of the new brand again?
Snap Commerce. Yeah, Snap Commerce is sort of the bigger vision of what we want to do in terms of changing commerce.
I think it's super exciting. And one thing I'm wondering as a whole is, I'm assuming lots of customers are potentially going to want to be, who are already customers of SnapTravel, maybe interested in other products that you're offering through Snap Commerce. I guess what I'm wondering is, how are you thinking about data ownership and privacy sort of in between these different brands that you're creating?
Well, when customers engage, they always explicitly opt in, right? Like we don't find random numbers, we don't mess with random people. They explicitly opt into the service. And as a part of terms of service, it's it's a two-way dialogue, right? Like they message us, we message them. And if they don't message us and they don't want to message us, then we don't. So we respect the customer's preferences. Yeah, but a lot of times they do, and they ask us for more things. So I think it's a two-way street, and we try to be respectful of that. In terms of data and privacy and stuff, we treat that with respect. If people want to opt out, we let them opt out, and we delete their data and stuff. So yeah.
And I guess what I'm wondering in general, I know I read a blog post of yours recently, and it was a lot about how your business changed during COVID, and what was COVID like for you? How has that affected your business, and what's changed?
Yeah, COVID was, as you can probably imagine, pretty unexpected. We were having our best month before, and then all of a sudden COVID came, borders were shut down, and we thought it was going to be a depressed state for a long time. So as any reasonable person would do in the best interest of the company, and we had to really take control of destiny. So we shifted to become profitable so that we could own our own destiny, and we were able to achieve that with the tremendous help of the entire team, and our efforts became profitable in about 60 days, which is pretty awesome. And we wrote a sort of playbook on how to do that. If anybody's interested, we sort of help a lot of the company and achieve that. So that was sort of the start. And then what happened was, as people continued to travel, there were still pockets of demand, and we just had to find them. And so we were able to better target these pockets of demand using our technology and AI, and still found these pockets of demand. A lot of it was domestic travel. A lot of it was like sort of nearby cities, drive-by destinations. And we continued to grow. So we ended up doing better than pre-COVID. Now we're twice the size pre-COVID, and profitable. So it's been pretty exciting to see.
That's incredible, Henry. And I suppose what I'm wondering as well is, from the team perspective, like how has that shifted during the pandemic? How you guys operate and work together?
Yeah. So we became a fully remote company too. So not only was it like everybody was working remote during COVID, our lease just ended in the end of October. So we actually are truly fully remote now. It was one of those things where like people didn't really feel comfortable coming back. There was no point paying, a ton of money for an office space. So we decided to just go remote for now and see what happens. And it's been definitely a learning process. We're still pretty efficient, but in terms of like team social and feeling connected to the team, that's been a little bit challenging. So we've been trying to do a lot more to help people feel more comfortable with the team and feel more connected and whatnot.
Very, very cool. I know we just got a little bit of time left, but I just wanted to ask what it's been like to balance personally during this time as sort of the demands of this pandemic have kind of ebbed and flowed, and how you've been maintaining kind of your own mental health and how that's been going.
It's been it's been probably challenging for everybody, as you know. I was staying with my parents a little bit in the beginning, which is nice, just to keep you closer to family. That's good, and you had kind of social support there, but also spending a lot of time at home, it kind of also gets you a little bit. So I ended up moving back home. My roommate moved out, so I got my own place. It's been nice. I think it was helpful because it allowed sort of peace and focus and sort of move forward working from home. But at the same time, it's also a little bit tricky because now you're sort of in this downtown condos, not that big, and trying to do things, but things are being shut down, restaurants aren't open. So it's been tricky to balance that. But you find ways to make it work, like connecting with friends online, old friends, new friends, doing more things virtually, and occasionally kind of doing a social distance gathering, if you will, or meeting up. So it's just finding that balance. Exercise has been helpful. Although gyms are closed, there's a lot of like good calisthenics and stuff you can do at home. So overall finding sort of a balance to the life and lifestyle.
No, I really respect you sharing that. Definitely been something on my mind as well. So Henry, I was wondering in general, what it's like to work at SnapTravel, and also if you guys have any upcoming career opportunities that you want to share with our audience.
Sure. Yeah, it's been great. We're a very sort of driven, focused team, and we really emphasize on personal growth and learning, and we want to make sure that it's a meaningful experience and people can really learn and grow and challenge themselves. And that's really one of the reasons why I started a company, is because I felt like I wasn't getting that at a big company. I wanted to grow and learn. So, and in terms of the company, we have some pretty core values like thinking big, moving fast, being data-driven, open and transparent, same goal, one team, and being an owner. And we really apply it to everything we do, where we really think big. And, even though we're doing well, we want to continue to do well and do more, right? We didn't want to just stop in travel and hotels. We want to do more and sort of tackle all parts of commerce. We've been moving very quickly, and we apply data to all our decision making, because many people have ideas, but at the end of the day, the data is going to tell you which one's better, and sort of we let the best idea surface. So a lot of these things come together, and we've been hiring, and we need to continue to hire because we've been growing so quickly. And unfortunately, our team hasn't been growing at the rate we wanted to grow, or rather, we've been a little bit slow to hire. So we are looking to hire pretty aggressively across the company, whether it's engineers, data people, finance people, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, right now we've been really trying to continue to hire engineers, backend engineers, full stack engineers, data engineers, all across the board as we take our AI technology and apply it to more and more verticals.
Really, really exciting, Henry. And I just want to ask you as well, is there any other important or interesting announcements we should look to from either SnapTravel or SnapCommerce in the near future?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, we're working on something pretty big, so hopefully keep an eye out. Yeah, we made our first acquisition of ChatKit, which is pretty exciting.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, thank you. And that was sort of AI chat commerce, messaging commerce company, and we acquired some of the assets to really help continue to improve our technology and messaging AI experience. We'll keep an eye out for some more, and then we'll continue to grow and scale.
Awesome, Henry. Well, thanks so much for sharing the SnapTravel story today and yours. Looking forward to hearing more about SnapCommerce as a whole. Thanks for sharing a bit about your AI and machine learning tech and what you guys are using, how you've improved that, and also what it's been like to run your company and to actually take COVID as an opportunity and continue to grow.
Thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here, and really enjoy the chat. Hopefully it's helpful for some people.
Awesome. Thanks so much for all listeners for tuning into another episode of the Ask AI podcast. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Ask AI podcast. The executive producer was Chris McClellan. Additional production support was provided by Olina Mack and Kristen Riddell. To learn more about our webinar and chatbot projects and get information about sponsorships and volunteering, please visit our website at askai.org or email info@askai.org. Listeners can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Just search Ask AI.